domain and range. What is the domain? Domain is a set of all x values in a function. Okay? What is the range? The range is the set of all y values in a function. Okay? Now we're going to talk about there's two different types. And you have continuous a continuous function is a function with a graph that is unbroken. So the graph continues. There isn't any breaks in it. There isn't any spaces in it. Okay? And then you have a discrete function. Discrete is a function with a graph that consists of isolated points. Okay? So you have domain and range. Domain is your set of all x values. Your range is the set of all y values in a function. There's two different types of function. There's continuous and a discrete. Continuous means unbroken. Discrete means isolated points. Okay? So now let's look at this. I want you to draw a T-chart like this, and I want you to write continuous. And I want you to write discrete. So we have two different types of functions here. Now if you'll just draw a point at 2, 2, a closed dot, and then at -2, -2, and draw that graph. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find the domain and range. Number one, this is a continuous function. There is no breaks in that line, okay? So now let's talk about the domain and range. The domain is all values of x. So that is every single x value that this touches. So what we do here is I look right here, and I'm only looking at my x-axis. I am going to touch every value between -2 and 2. So what you do is you write it like this. You say the domain, this is the set or the domain. And I like starting with my x in the center. And I'm going to write my smaller number here, -2, which is on this side. And this side, which is 2. Okay. Now I have to put in my inequality sign. So we have to look at it. -2 is less than or equal to all the values of x, and x is less than or equal to all the values of 2. All right, and the reason we're using that equal to is because it is a solid dot. So now let's look at our range. I look at my range it is all your y values. So what I do is I'm looking at just my y-axis, and I go from here, and then it crosses here. Okay, so I look at just my y values. So once again, I put my y in the center. My lowest y value is a -2. My highest y value is 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say -2 is less than or equal to all the values of y, and y is less than or equal to all the values of 2. All right. So just a little note to help you. When you're writing these, if you put x, you're always going to put your low number here, your high number here, and you'll put your signs, and you'll write your y, and you always put your low number on the left, your high number on the right, and then you figure out which sign, okay? Now your signs should be going the same way. Now let's look at discrete. Okay? Discrete looks like this. Let's see. Let me get my white out. Now our discrete function would look something like this. -3, -2. Okay. If you see something like this, yes, it is a function, but it's a discrete function because it is a function with a graph that has isolated points, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to list out our points. We'll start down here. -3, whoopsie, I keep writing -2, sorry y'all. -3, -2. Your next point is at -2, -1. Your next point is at -1, 0. The next one is at 0, 1. This one is at 1, 2. And this one is at 2, 3. Okay, so there are all my ordered pairs. So now I have to say, what is the domain and the range? Well, the domain of X equals, and this little bracket means the set. Since this is discrete, it's not going to have that -2.5 in there, right? It is only going to be -3, -2, because it doesn't touch anything in between those X values. So in a discrete function, you just list out your ordered pairs. I mean, not your ordered pairs, you just list out your values. So if you look, these are all my X values or my domain. These are all my Y values or my range. Okay, so we just list it out. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then we say the range are my Y's. And my Y values start there, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay? All right, so let's look at a couple of other functions and let's figure out the domain and the range. All right, list the domain and range for each function. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put an open circle at -3, 2. So you're going to go over -3, up 2, and an open circle. You're going to put a closed circle at 5, -1. And then we're going to draw a straight line from here all the way to the 2 and then come down. Okay? So this line goes all the way to 2, 2, and then it angles down. So here we go. We have to list out the domain. Now, first we have to say, is this continuous or discrete? Well, it is continuous, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write up here continuous. So I know that I'm going to have a range of X and Y values. Now my domain is my X and my range is my Y. So we're going to look at every letter or every value on the X-axis that this is going to touch. Okay? Now I'm not saying it has to touch the X-axis. I am saying what is the X value. So like the X value right here would be like -1/2. So I am touching every X value. So let me get my yellow again. All right. So I'm touching every value between this -3 and the 5. All right. So here we go. We're going to write X. Remember our lower number on this side, our higher number on this side. Okay. Now we have to look. -3 is in what reference to X? Well, -3 is our smallest number, so it is less than. I am not going to put an equal to sign because that is an open circle. Okay? Now, all of these X values are less than or equal to 5. All right? So now let's look at our Y. When we're looking at our range, we're looking at our Y values, okay? So what is the lowest Y value that we have? Well, the lowest Y value we have is at -1, and the highest Y value we have is at 2. So I'm technically looking at every one of those Y values on that axis, okay? So my lowest Y value is -1, my largest Y value is 2, okay? -1, in reference to -1 and Y, -1 is less than or equal to, and on 2, Y is less than. All these values are less than 2. So I don't do less than or equal to because that is an open circle. So you just have to watch your open circle and closed circles on equations like that. All right. So now let's do another one. Let's put a dot at 0, 0. Let's go to 2, 2, 4, 4, and an open circle at 5, 5. Let's do a closed circle at negative 2, 2, and at negative 4, 4. And this is going to connect just like that. All right, so we have to decide, is this continuous or discrete? Once again, this is continuous. Even though there are certain points that are marked, my line is continuous and it does not break. Now remember, domain is X and range is Y. So what I do is I always take a highlighter and I say, all right, which values of X? Well, it touches everything. It stops there and here. So I say, all right, so I'm going to write my X, my negative 4, and my 5. So negative 4, now I'm looking at all these values. This is what represents X, is all of these values, okay? So negative 4 is less than or equal to, because of that closed dot, of X. And 5, X is less than 5. Open circle, so you have to leave it open. So let's look at Y's. I don't touch anything below 0. And I have an open circle at 5. Okay? So we have Y, 0, and 5. So 0, remember this is at the bottom, so it's less than or equal to Y, but Y is less than 5. So what you're just trying to do when you're looking at domain and range and you're writing it out like this, you're wanting to know where does X fall in between those, and that's why your signs are always going the same direction. All right, now let's look at this one. Let's